So we are recording this for anyone who wants to watch later. Welcome, my name is Jocelyn Levin. I am the Children's and Teen Librarian here at the Lyon Township Public Library. We are open if anyone wants to come in for 30-minute visits. You can also make an appointment to use the computers for 30 minutes. We're still doing curbside pickup. If there's any books that you might want or videos or anything else, you can give us a call or put them online, on hold online, and we will pull them and put them out in the tent for you. And we're doing a few more fun online programs like this one. We are very excited to have Ryan Estrada and Hyun Sook Kim join us from all the way from Busan, Korea. Is it like 7 o'clock in the morning there?
Yep, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so because it's on the other side of our globe of Earth, the time zones are different. And so even though it's 6 o'clock here in the evening, it's 7 o'clock in the morning where Ryan is. So we are very thankful that they got up early to do this fun Zoom with us. And Ryan has written and illustrated lots and lots of great graphic novels and comics. And I believe that Hyun Sook is a debut author this year. Is that right?
Yeah,
your
first book.
First book. Oh, Ryan wants to be like me.
Oh no, stay 6 feet apart. You're so close. You're next to the same sign.
I don't know, it's kind of tricky. We seem to have different flowers in bloom.
Uh-oh.
So.
Hi, Sven.
Yep, there's Sven. Sven, you're on Aurora's head. So thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to have you, and take it away, Ryan.
Well, my name is Ryan Estrada. I grew up in Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I've been to the Lyon Township Library, but now I'm not there. I'm very, very far away in South Korea. I started making comics right there where you guys live. My first job was making comics for the Oakland Press. Does anybody know the Oakland Press?
That's
the local
one of the
newspaper
newspapers that we get at the library. So you can come
I tried
and read it.
I tried to get a job there when I was 6 years old, and they said, we'll keep your work on file. That means maybe one day. But I took it very seriously, and I would mail them every year and be like, can I get a job yet? And finally they got sick and tired of me and hired me when I was 15. And that was my first job right there in Michigan. And now since then I've been traveling the world, making comics everywhere I go. I've lived in like 15 to 20 different countries. I lost track. And I make comics for I've made comics for Star Trek and Garfield and Popeye and some other ones that haven't been announced yet. And I made Band Book Club with this cool lady right here. Who are you?
My name is Hyun Sook. I live in Busan in South Korea. Welcome to Busan. So it's well, one day I told my university my story in university. So he really liked that. He encouraged me to talk about that. And then one day we got a book deal from Iron Circus, and so I participate with the co-author, and then he wrote.
Show your book.
Oh yeah, here.
What's the Korean? It's in English and Korean.
Yes.
While we're doing introductions, we should show them our view. You want to see Busan where we live?
Yeah.
Let's show you. Let's show you. Okay, here we go. Hyun Sook, open the window. Oh, here we go. This is Busan, South Korea at 7 a.m. That right there is the Gwangan Bridge. If you've seen Black Panther, that's the bridge that he drives across. That's the very beginning of it, when he jumps off of the car and does all those tricks. Over there is the world's largest department store. And that is, that's Busan.
Oh, there's the.
Very cool.
And over here is the home of the Busan Film Festival, which is the largest film festival in Asia. I have a film premiering there at the Short Film Festival in a couple of weeks. Over there is a free kayaking zone. You can get free kayaks and ride around on the river.
Very.
And that's our cool. That's where we live.
So that's a much bigger city than South Lyon. Ryan J. and Aurora, have you ever been to a big city with so many big buildings?
Yeah.
Chicago?
Mexico City.
Mexico City? Wow. What about you, Ryan?
Mexico City.
I've been to Chicago too.
Chicago? Mm-hmm.
That's where our book was published, in Chicago, Iron Circus.
Very cool. And we have one more
Galaxy?
guest. I'm not sure who Galaxy S8 is, but welcome.
Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, that's just the name of the phone.
Uh,
It's not the Samsung Corporation coming to
I see.
watch here.
Just one of our friends. Perhaps that might be Shirley or it might be Steve. Those are the two people that signed up. So hello to whoever you might be. Welcome. All right. So Ryan, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the other books that you've published?
I have done many things over many years. One of the first, this is the Korean edition, but I made one called Aki Alliance. It's a web comic. You can read it for free on the internet. That's about a little girl who tries to make friends with everyone in her class, but she's kind of a jerk and she doesn't know how to make friends, so she does it all by tricking them and getting weird plans and getting into a lot of trouble. Some stuff you might see in libraries is an anthology that I had a story in, This Is How You Die. There's another one for kids called Timorous Beastie that I had a story in that's about animals going on adventures. I did one about an otter. You mentioned I wrote Poorcraft, Wish You Were Here, which is a book about travel. I was in Flight Volume 4. I've done many more than that. Those are the books I happen to have on my desk right now. But yeah, some of the exciting ones I have right now. Very soon, my next book, Student Ambassador, The Missing Dragon, comes out. I'm very excited about that one. That's a book for kids. It's starting a graphic novel series about a little kid who has adventures around the world. First one's in Korea. Second book, he's going to go to Mexico and kind of like having adventures like Tintin. But the big one right now is Banned Book Club. And then, of course, you know, all the little comics we've been doing lately for stuff online like The Nib and Star Trek and Garfield and Popeye and all that.
Yeah. So Banned Book Club is all about when Hyun Sook was in college, and she lived in Korea then as well. That's where she grew up. And it was not a very friendly political climate for reading different books. So there were a lot of books that we might here in Michigan read at school, or our teachers might assign to us to read at home, and then we might talk about them at school, but they were not allowed to be read in Korea. Has that changed?
Has that changed, Hyun Sook? Are books still banned?
This book?
No, our in Korea, is it the same as that?
No, it's not banned. You can read any books you want. Yeah, but at the time I was in college in dictatorship of 1980s. It's very dark and it's authorities. Yeah. So everything is censored. The newspaper was censored, and even we can't talk about the politics, and so many students at the time under the dictatorships, many students the protest, and they were arrested and tortured, and very, very crazy period at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So now we have freedom.
Protests.
Yeah. All free. It's democracy.
Yeah, basically there was a very bad leader who wanted all the power. He said, "You don't think about politics, I think about politics." So it wasn't just books about bad things that you couldn't read. Basically, you couldn't read anything about politics, even about democracy, because he thought if you read a book about happy democracy, you will say, "Wait a minute, we don't have that. You said we have a democracy, but we don't get to do this. We don't get to do this." So if you read any book about politics, probably you would be in big trouble. And even the writers of those books, like one of the writers, he was writing books and articles about how this president is bad and he's doing bad things. So he was arrested, put in prison, and sentenced to death. But
Wow.
some years later, people fought against this, got a free election, and some years later, that guy that was put in prison and sentenced to death became the new president, and he got a Nobel Peace Prize. So things changed so much in those few years that the people who were thought about as troublemakers were now the leaders.
Yeah. So just the same way that you might see people on the news having a protest here in Michigan because they want to say that there's something that they don't agree with, that they think is unjust or unfair, when luckily we are allowed to have those sorts of protests and to have civil disobedience and to tell the leaders when we think that there's something that's not right. In the
Yeah,
same
what I learned from writing this book and interviewing all the protesters and talking with Hyun Sook, again, this is what the protests looked like then, is that even then, right now, people remember this history as this wonderful history, these brave people that fought for what was right. But back then when they were doing it, they were just thought of as the annoying kids that were just being a pain and interrupting, and they're like, "I'm just trying to study. Why are you bothering me?" Let me see if I can find that page. Yeah, like here, people just yelling at them to be quiet, and like on the news and everything, it was, "These are the troublemakers," because they were speaking out against what the leaders were doing, and they were kind of interrupting life. But nowadays people realize that was very important, because without them doing that, the movement wouldn't have grown and grown, and now we wouldn't be free. Korea is now so free, like a wonderful democracy. Like, even, not that progress is perfect, nothing goes in a straight line. There have been leaders that have come back and tried to cause trouble again, but now, because the people learned from these experiences, when a leader comes in and tries to do something bad or take too much power or tell people they can't read this, the people are like, "No, no way." And then, just, you want to tell about the Candlelight Revolution?
The last president, the former president, she was the daughter of a dictator, her name is Bakune, and then she used her power, abused her power, and had a lot of corruption, right? So it's more people talk about that, and they awareness, and she did very bad things, and she
And like one of them, she tried banning books
yeah, buys
that complained
his,
about her father. She tried to blacklist filmmakers who made movies about her father's period of ruling. And basically it was weird because it was Korea got its first female president, and it's like, yay, that's future, but also she's literally the daughter of the dictator that did all the bad things, and she wants to do the same bad things. So it was weird for a lot of like activists, because they're like, I guess we have to protest against the first female president and get her removed from office, even though we want a female president. This one's very bad.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people were injured and died because of her policies and things she did or didn't do. So but it was the hugest protest you'll ever see. But it was like, it wasn't just one group of people. Like basically the entire country would come out all at once to every city. And if you see pictures from the sky, it looks like the entire city is filled with people, like with candles.
millions.
And they didn't do it just one day. They did it every single day for like almost a year.
Yeah.
And even when they got what they said, impeach the president, and they, okay, fine, we'll do that. We'll start hearings. And they said, okay, well, we're going to keep protesting until you find her guilty. And they found her guilty. And they said, we're going to keep protesting until you remove her from office. And they kept doing it. And then finally, they got her removed from office, and she's in jail now. She did a lot of very bad.
Yes, but protest is very peaceful protest. Yeah. No fighting against the right. So even though the policemen had pens, we kept in pens. We fight against the dictator very peacefully. No one injured. No one go to the jail about that. No one died. No people died. No policemen died. Very peacefully for many months. We had a candlelight, and yeah, it's finally the people and policemen become friends.
Yeah, this time even the policemen joined the protest. In the previous ones, the policemen were out fighting everyone and shooting people in the 80s, but now the policemen are like, we don't like this either. We're going to join in. Because it was these protests nowadays, because so many people supported them, they became like family picnics. Families would come together. They would bring their picnic. They would have little concerts. Afterward, they would clean up all the messes together and be friends.
Like festival.
Yeah, like a festival.
Yeah. So, Hyun Sook, before you became an author, what kind of job did you have?
I taught the English in the children communities center.
Okay.
Unprivileged.
Yeah, underprivileged kids.
Yeah, kids. The after school, because the parents, go to work, and if don't care the children, they will just play computer, and they are a little poor and single mother, and so single parents. So they came to the community center. Yeah, at the times I teach English, and many there are many teachers, math teacher and science teacher, and sometimes we went to picnic together, and have sometimes music, and yeah, they are cool.
Yeah, it's really fun because Hyun Sook never ever planned to be an author. Did you ever plan to be an author?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So she's someone that never even thought about it, never considered it, and then we got a book deal just because she told me her story. I posted about it on Twitter. Our publisher saw it and offered us a book deal, and I'm like, "You want to write a book?" She's like, "I guess so." So many people dream their whole lives of writing a book, people reading it, maybe getting good reviews. And Hyun Sook, who never even wanted to be an author, her book has become so popular, getting all these amazing reviews. She's being flown out all over the world. Well, before the lockdown, she was flown out to America, flown out to Washington, D.C. and Pittsburgh to talk about her book, doing TV interviews, radio interviews, talking at libraries. And she's just like, what? And I'm like,
I never even imagined.
and I keep like, she keeps like, what? And I keep telling her like, oh, you want to write another book? She's like, oh, I already wrote one. I'm tired.
I just told my stories, but he was so into it, and so tell me more. So I don't remember all. So it's yeah. One day he tweeted in on Twitter. He wrote my story on Twitter, and then people really like that, and we got a book deal. And so, how could I write the books? I am not author, but he keep pushing me.
I'm very pushy.
Yeah. So it's
Peer pressure.
yeah. So I interviewed my older friends that we had band book club.
Oh,
I met
okay.
one of the members in yeah. So I interviewed him, and that is the one of the main character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to our old university, and also I met the college professor, and so many things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was really fun is because Hyun Sook had never written a book before, when we were writing it, she would do the talking. I would interview her, ask her what happened, what did they say. She would do interviews. I'd say, what did they say happened? And then I would be the one at the computer typing the script and then show it to her. She would check it. So I was the one doing the writing. She was the one doing the talking. But then people started hearing about the book in Korea, and we got a deal for the Korean version, which came out the same day. And they hired Hyun Sook to be the translator. So then she was the one at the computer. Finally, she got to be the one that was at the computer writing the script and then calling me and being like, what does this joke mean? Like having me explain the puns and like this. And she was at the one, well, that pun doesn't work in Korean, so I'll have to rewrite the whole page. And so then she became the writer while I was the consultant. So we each have our own version of the book that we sat down and wrote.
Very cool. And how did you find someone to illustrate the book?
Well, I am a comic artist and I've illustrated many books, but because this is a Korean story, I didn't want to be the one to illustrate it. I thought a Korean story should have a Korean illustrator, because, you know, to make it accurate, make it feel Korean, maybe get the Korean manhwa style artwork. And so I started searching all over Korea. I was going to conventions. I was looking at the like graduation catalogs of different universities, reading web comics, finding someone that would be a good match. And I found Go Hyung-ju, whose art I really liked. It just felt like some fun, like college kid hangout comic style. And that's what we wanted it to feel like, because we don't, you know, this book covers very serious topics, but we didn't want it to be this serious history, because that's what was interesting to me about the story. Wasn't these big dramatic moments, it was that these big dramatic moments were happening in the middle of people's normal lives. They're just trying to hang out with their friends and flirt with boys and attend classes and get good grades, but all of these strange things and Molotov cocktails and protests and being stalked by police kind of happened in the process of their lives. One of my favorite moments from the story of Hyun Sook's life is when the secret police called her. Um, they had found out that she was connected to some people in the band book club, and they called and wanted to interrogate her. But they called her parents looking for her, and she just happened to be at her parents' house. And she like just didn't even know it. She just, I'll answer the phone for you. She happened to be the one that picked up when it was the police asking about her. And so she had to have the conversation with the police without her parents knowing what she was saying. So she pretended she was talking to a boy and just like, oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, you want to hang out? Okay, I'll meet you at a coffee shop. And then like, it's just so, it's not, if you think about some dramatic future, it'd be like the big tough police officer in riot gear showing up at the house at night, knocking on the door. But it's just these weird little moments of people like trying to lead their teen lives. And that's what Go Hyung-ju is able to bring to it, is just make it feel like a lot of the book you're just hanging out with these characters, going to the park, riding in boats, but then very serious things happen to them. So that's what I liked about his style, bringing it to it.
Yeah. So your parents didn't know that you were in this band book club.
It was secret from your parents?
Yeah. So it's at that time every day if you in the street, is a lot of, you can see protest against the dictatorship. So it's and also the students, you college students, they had a lot of protest. So it's my parents, if you go to the college, don't protest, just study. Don't cause the trouble. Okay, you go to the college to study, not protest. So it's
we'll let you go away to school, but you have to be good.
Yeah, because a lot of dangerous things, you can be arrested and then go to the jail, and especially for women, is the go to the jail is so horrible. It's
very dangerous place to be.
Dangerous. Yeah, and also it's okay. So you are the leader of a protest. People think you are leader of a protest. If you later after university you can't get a job, and it's kind of what is that, the trauma or the kind of scarlet letter?
Yeah, you would
kind of a scarlet letter. Yeah.
Not scarlet.
Yeah, you'd get a reputation for being a troublemaker.
And yeah, it's because the government, the dictator always said, oh, you are the communist, you are commie rat.
Commie rat, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a whole, if you go to the jail, your family can suffer too.
Yeah.
Because you are commie rat family, and like that.
One of the most touching moments of doing this book tour and talking to different people in libraries and things so of course Hyun Sook's mom didn't know anything about any of that when it was going on, and afterwards it's just something people didn't really talk about, so they never really had a discussion about it, right? Your whole life they never really talked about Hyun Sook being a member of this band book club and being involved in protests. But after our book was out, we were doing, with Asian Authors Alliance, we were doing an Instagram live stream where Hyun Sook did just a band book club meeting at her house, and we're streaming it live. And it just so happened that morning, Hyun Sook's mom just showed up at her house. She traveled from another city, took a bus here and said, I'm sleeping on your sofa. And she slept on her sofa. She was here when they did the band book club, watching from the table. And then she just walked into the Instagram live and told Hyun Sook that she did a good job and she's proud of her. So after all those years, finally she found out, and she it's cool.
Yeah.
We're waiting to see what she found, what she thinks, because Hyun Sook's mom it was her 80th birthday, and we just gave her a copy of the book in Korean. She'd seen the book before at her house, but she saw she had the English version, which she can't understand.
Right.
So she couldn't read all the pages about them fighting and her yelling at Hyun Sook and like.
Yeah.
So now she's actually reading the words. So we're curious to see what she thinks.
Yeah.
That was her present, her 80th birthday present. She's finally allowed to read our book in Korean.
That would be
What do you think she's gonna
tricky
think?
to
What's
be
what's your mom
writing
gonna think?
and publishing a book that your whole life has been kind of not something that you talked about with your family. That would be a surprise to them.
Yeah, Hyun Sook is usually very private, right?
Yeah, it's when I joined the band book club, I didn't know that that was the band book club. I just think, I majored in the English literature, so it's I like reading books. So and okay, so my friend recommend that introduced the book club, but I thought that's just a literature book club that I can read, that I like, but I accidentally joined the band book club. I didn't know that. So at first it feels so nervous.
Yeah, it turned out to be
Yeah.
something different than you expected.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Hyun Sook is usually so private that like if she takes a picture of some flowers and I'm like, why don't you post your pictures of flowers on Facebook? She's like, who can see them? What are my settings? Who's gonna see my flowers? And I'm like, they're flowers, Hyun Sook. It's okay, you can put flowers. And I'm like, you realize that everyone in the world knows everything about your life now, right?
Yep, that's tricky to be someone who's usually quiet about your private life and to be writing a book that involves so much important things that happen to you in your life. Absolutely. So Ryan was talking about that Hyun Sook never thought she would be an author, but Ryan wanted to be a cartoonist from when he was very young because he was submitting cartoons to the local newspaper and coming up with lots of stories. Ryan J, do you like to write stories or draw cartoons? Yeah, I had a feeling. So Ryan J, our younger Ryan, who's on today, is part of our Young Writers Club at the library. And do you think you would like to be an author or an illustrator someday, Ryan?
Yeah, I wanna be both.
Both? Which?
What do you like writing about?
Well, I like cartoons.
Cool.
Graphic.
Well, my advice to you is if you dream of one day being a writer and a cartoonist, I got news for you. You're already a writer and a cartoonist. Have you written something?
Yeah, I've written stories.
Yeah. Have you drawn something?
Yeah, I draw a lot.
Congratulations. You're a writer and a cartoonist right now. You don't got to dream of it. So my goal to you is don't wait until when I grow up, after I go to college, after I do this, or after I meet this person. Just you're a cartoonist right now. Start making comics. And like I said, I was submitting my comics to newspapers when I was 6 years old. I didn't get the job, but if I didn't start when I was 6, I probably wouldn't have gotten my first job when I was 15. So my suggestion is start now. Start talking to artists that you love, showing them your work. Feel free to show me your work. You can find me at ryanestrada.com. All my information's there. Go to conventions and put your work online if you can. Send your work to magazines. Like a lot of magazine stuff will publish fan art from young readers. Try to get your stuff published now, and then you can become successful much sooner. The sooner that you start.
Absolutely. And Aurora, I don't see you on the screen right now, but I was going to ask you what kind of job do you think you would like to have when you grow up?
Veteran?
What do you want?
Veteran?
No.
A veteran?
Yeah.
Veterinarian.
A veterinarian.
Veterinarian. What kind of animals do you think you will take care of?
Water horses?
Maybe.
Maybe. What kind of sicknesses do water horses get?
I don't know. They live in the water.
Maybe like frogs don't know they're a water horse and frogs just try to jump in the water and then the veterinarian has to help get the frogs out.
So
That's just my guess.
that's nice.
No, doesn't work that way.
You think
Okay.
that's silly?
I don't know. I've never met a water horse, so
Your sisters.
yeah.
No,
Well,
I-
my
My back.
They're asking you about what you want to do.
Do you think that you would like to take care of animals that live on a farm or animals that live in houses?
So I don't know which animal. Which one I pick.
Yeah.
It looks like that dog has a fishtail. I think it needs some medical treatment. I don't think it's supposed to have a fishtail.
It's just a mermaid dog. So
Oh, it's a
A
Supposed to look
mermaid
like that.
dog.
Okay, cool.
Ah.
My sister is a animal biologist. She travels around the world taking care of animals. She once went to Africa to help out hyenas, and I went out there to visit her. And now
Wow.
she, in another time, she was working on desert tortoises, helping save them, and now she's helping preserve the Great Lakes in Michigan.
Oh, that's wonderful. So Ryan and I, when we were little, went to the same school. In fact, we were in a club together. It wasn't a banned book club, but it was a different kind of club where we wrote stories and acted them out. We had this whole list of requirements that we had to try to meet, and we made our story about a bunch of chickens who needed advice. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah. Now,
And-
sushi, as you know, is a real nice dish, but despite you may think it isn't raw fish. I'm not going to do the whole song. That was a song.
Yeah,
For free musical numbers.
there's a song that Ryan wrote for us, and we performed it. And we made a big chicken coop backdrop and painted lots of chickens and eggs
You
on
wrote
the
the songs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's a good example of how, like I told Ryan,
Oh, it looks like we froze. Let's see. Ryan J, can you still hear
a
me?
little play about chickens.
Oh,
So-
there we go.
So some of the stories that I was writing as a kid, it's not the main story. It's just a little side story. But Aki joined the same team, and I got to use some of the same ideas. So all the stuff you're writing now, keep it in mind. And even like my next book, Student Ambassador: The Missing Dragon, is based on a story that I wrote when I was a kid, because I was a student ambassador, and I dreamed of one day, it wasn't as exciting as I thought. I did it and I realized it was like a package tour. So I dreamed of what I wished it was like. And now all these years later, I'm finally getting to make that book. So even the stories you make today, maybe 20 years from now, you'll be making a big budget graphic novel based on those ideas.
Very cool. And let's see, I reached out to our Galaxy S8 friend, but they haven't responded yet. So if you'd like to come on camera or unmute, or even just type a question in the chat, you're welcome to do that.
I want to know if you remember any of your chicken lines.
My chicken lines. So
Man, high
after I
school.
was on,
Yeah.
after I was on a team with Ryan, I did the same sort of club 2 more times. And I I remember like vaguely from my senior year of high school, a little bit of that play. Don't remember too much about the chicken lines. I remember that the name of, let's see.
You were Clara Barnton.
I was Clara Barnton, yep. And we had Alfred Hitchcock and Lucille Bulk. And we had lots of famous people, and they all had funny chicken names.
It's weird that like I don't remember what I did last week. I don't remember my schedule, but I still remember that whole play. We could do it right now. We could do a reunion show. We get everyone together next time I'm back in Michigan.
I would love that.
If and then there was the blues songs that I wrote for the beginning and end, and when you were changing the sets. I don't have a harmonica, so I can't do that one. But it's like, dun, 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 dun. You say I taste good, bum 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 bum. You say that I'm finger licking, dun 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 dun. You say you feel like me tonight, dun dun. But hey, I'm just a chicken, and I got the bottom of the pecking order blues.
It's all coming back to me. Ryan has a very good memory.
Yeah.
Only about that, apparently.
So you together go to the high school together and university together?
Not university. High school.
Just high school, yeah.
Let's
see. I'll see. I may be able to find a picture of us. Maybe I will. If I can find a picture of us, I will share it.
Was he a nerd?
Yes, he was a nerd. But so was I.
Everybody's a nerd when they're in high school. Come on.
That's true.
Some of us are still nerds, but you know.
That's true. Okay, here, I'll share my screen and show you. So there's a picture of me and Ryan.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
In 1997.
Does that guy look like a nerd?
So that's Miss Jocelyn and that's Ryan.
Oh.
And then let's see. This is a picture. That's the picture that Ryan was just showing us. This is the picture of us in high school when we were different chicken characters. So that's Miss Jocelyn, Clara Barnton. And we had Tiffany was Lucille Bulk, and Eric was Alfred Hitchcock. And that's Ryan. Ryan was Peter the Grade A. And then back here, JR was in that play. And that might have been.
Does that guy look like a nerd? Yeah.
But the play?
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's very cool.
I can't make the picture any bigger for some reason, but. Yep. Marvelous Mentors. That's what the name of the challenge was.
Yeah, I played that character in that costume, and then on the set, each there were like, was it like 16 different characters?
Yes.
They had like puppet mouths, and I would play all of them by going behind and moving the mouths and doing all the voices and singing a song as all of them.
Yeah, Ryan was definitely our ringer. He was an amazing part of our team. The rest of us just sort of tried to show up and remember our lines.
I'm glad I had that practice, because now I produce radio for BEFM. That's the English radio station in Busan, and I run the radio drama show. And there's not enough budget to hire actors, so I have my 2 lead actors, and then pretty much anyone they talk to is me. So I've had to play like 50 characters so far during the course of the show. Wow. But I had that practice of doing a bunch of voices. They're not all good. They can't all be winners. But I had, practice coming up with different voices.
Very cool. Well, let's see. Aurora, do you have any questions for our authors? Do you have anything that you want to ask them?
There's Ryan.
So, so we read this book, Mermaid Tales book. You see that?
You should ask him if he's writing a book about mermaids.
What book is that?
Mermaid Tales?
It's
Mermaid Tales.
Have you ever written a book about mermaids?
Have I ever written a book about I've written, let me think back. I've written hundreds of books. I don't think I've ever written a book about mermaids. I'll have to start.
That's the next, that'll be the next big one.
What happened?
No.
Yeah, I think the only mythical creature I've written a book about is werewolves.
Ah.
And I'm working on a book that I don't know what I'm doing with it yet about an awizodel. Awizodel is like I guess a scary Central American
Creature.
mermaid. Well, it's creature. It has the head of a jackal and the body of a giant otter and like a monkey paw on the end of its hand, and it hides in the water to catch people. So I'm writing a book about one of those. It's not exactly a mermaid, but it's a creature that lives under the water.
Yeah, that sounds scarier than a mermaid.
But mine is friendly. It still eats people, but you know, she's nice.
Ryan, what have you been reading lately?
That Ryan, I think.
What? Oh.
That
Oh yeah, sorry.
Either Ryan. Ryan J, what have you been reading?
I've been reading Throwback. It's a book by Peter Larangis. It's borrowed from the library.
Okay.
You got it.
Peter Larangis. Very cool.
What's it about?
It's just this boy who goes back into time to save his grandmother, but he fails.
Oh, a time traveler.
Hmm.
Ryan E, have you written any time traveling stories before?
Have I written any time travel stories? Don't think I have. I've written a lot of stories that like the characters don't travel through time, but like the story is not in order.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what happened to this character and then you see what happened before that and stuff like that. But I don't think I've written about any time travelers. I have a story that I'd like to write one day about it's about a guy who like Big or movies like that where the guy who makes a wish that he could go back to his childhood. He thinks I wouldn't change a thing. I wish I could relive my childhood. And then he wakes up as a kid again. And so, but then whatever he does the next morning, he wakes up and it's reset. He has to like live as though it were the same day again.
Oh.
And so he really can't change a thing. Even if he tells everyone I've come from the future, I'm really, a 40-year-old, the next morning they don't remember and it's exactly as it was. And he has to relive his entire life all over again. And then even after the day he made the dream, he still wakes up resetting to what his life would have been like if he'd never made the wish. So that's my kind of version of a time travel story that one day I want to make.
That sounds cool. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, so what is one of your favorite books that you've written and been inspired by? I mean, you talked about the book that you wrote together, obviously, and it was inspired by her life, but what is one of your other favorite books? Because obviously that one is very important in your life, but what is one of the other ones and what inspired you to write it?
Student Ambassador, it was supposed to come out next week, but I think it's been delayed till September. The one I mentioned before about the kid who goes on adventures, that's my favorite one that I've written, I think. And it took me so long to get it made. Like I said, I started working on it when I was in high school. I'm so excited about that one coming out. I hope it becomes a series. Just because it's a fun adventure. It has a lot of comedy, but also kids reading it, like they can, without realizing it, accidentally learn how to read Korean and learn a lot about world culture and history and things, but not like stop and have a lesson. It's just part of the story of how they solve mysteries. So I'm really proud of that one. I'm excited for people to read it. But something that's out right now that kids can read, Aki Alliance is one. It's a very early comic. It's not free on my website. You can't find it at the library. But if you go to ryanestrada.com, that one's there. That's a good kids comic that I'm proud of. I'm not supposed to talk about it, but there's something going on with TV that might happen soon with that one. That it might become a TV show. Might not, might. Somebody's working on it right now. But what's that? Well, that's in the future. We're working on more Band Book Club books. We're working on more student ambassador books. But as far as what's coming very soon or right now, student ambassador and Aki Alliance.
Very cool. So I know some of the stories that Ryan, you've written have been based on your life in the same way that Band Book Club was based on Hyun Sook's life. I know, let's see. So Ryan has so many great stories. But I think the one that kind of sticks in my head is when you slept on a bench through a hurricane. Typhoon. Where did that happen?
That happened in Japan. So the first time I moved to Korea, I was right out of college, just moved to Korea, didn't have any money. And the way it worked back then is you would arrive in the country, then they would send you to Japan to get your work visa, and then you come back and continue teaching. But my school didn't want me to miss any work, so they sent me on a holiday. So I flew to Japan and then found out, of course, the Korean consulate where I get my visa is closed on a Korean holiday. So I was stuck there, and I had to miss my flight the next morning because I didn't have a visa to come back. And then I ran out of money because I was very poor, and I brought just enough for one day because I was supposed to be there. So the next night I think, okay, I'll sleep in the airport. So, and especially because that day there was a big typhoon where typhoon is like a hurricane. It's a big, scary weather. Trees are falling down. Streets are getting flooded. Very, very dangerous weather. So I'm like, I need some place to sleep. I don't have any money for a hotel. I'm going to sleep inside the airport. I get there and I'm sleeping on a bench, and then 10 o'clock comes and they're like, you got to get out of here. Airport's closed. I'm like, I didn't know the airport closed. They're like, it's closing right now. You got to get out. And I'm like, it's a typhoon. They're like, well, figure it out. So I kicked out. I didn't have any money for a taxi. There's no buses there. And you know how when you go to the airport, it's not in the middle of city. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's just highways and farms. So I'm just walking in this typhoon along the highway, not knowing where to go. And I kept trying to find different places to sleep. I found a photo booth where you sit down and put in money and get your photo. And I'm sitting there. You know how they have the twisty chairs? So I'm trying to sit in that twisty chair and I'd fall asleep and the chair would twist and shoot me out into a puddle. So I'm like, that's not going to work.
Oh, no.
So I kept walking and walking, and then finally I found a park, and there were a lot of homeless people sleeping on the benches in the rain. And I'm like, well, if there were a better place to sleep for free, these guys would be there. So this must be the best place. So I got myself a bench. I grabbed it, and I just lied down, and I felt so bad. I was very sick. I was very sad. I was very stressed out. And then as I was laying there, this cat came, walked up like nothing was wrong, sat on my stomach and stared at me. And I pet him, and he laid down, and I hugged him. And then I started laughing, and I realized this is the worst moment of my life. But I'm okay. I'm hanging out, having a good time with a cat. And that kind of changed my life, that moment, because I realized if something this bad can happen to me and I'm okay, I don't need to stress about things going wrong. Not that things couldn't go wrong. I wasn't hurt. No one else was hurt. It's just a really bad day for me, and nothing went the way I planned, but I can have a good time. I can enjoy it. So after that, I no longer, I worry about danger. I worry about things causing irreparable harm. but I don't have to worry about having a bad day. I don't have to worry about things not going the way I planned, because even when something that horrible goes wrong, I can make a book about it. I can tell about it on a podcast. It could be an anecdote to tell at a library. And it's one of my favorite stories and one of the best days of my life. So that's what I learned from that.
Very cool. Well, we're coming up on 1 hour. Is there anything else you'd like to, I don't know, Ryan or Aurora? I don't think Aurora has any more questions. Sarah, if you have any more questions, you're welcome to unmute and let us know. Or Ryan, if there's anything you or Hyun Sook want to tell us about. You've already told us about a lot of cool stuff that you've got coming up. I'm
I have a
excited to
question.
hear. Yeah.
If a water horse goes to the North Pole, will it become an ice horse?
She just needs Elsa to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if it goes to North Pole, will it be frozen like a statue, or it will just become like an ice horse and it can run around like that? I don't know. I've never met a water horse.
He's a water horse. He's just a water horse.
Just a water horse, so it can't become ice?
He just not.
If it,
He's just water horse.
okay, so but if it's a really hot day and the water evaporates, will it become an air horse?
No, he lives in.
Okay, I understand.
I think when Elsa was riding him, she made some of the waves into ice for him to jump on, right?
Yeah, so in the movie, so supposedly they go out to Holland, which is considered up in the north as like the northern lights and all that, so that would be the North Pole.
And
so it takes it to her there
Hey,
when
Mom,
it's not frozen.
I want to tell you
Tell them the story.
something blazing, something very grand. It was fire.
Yeah, that was the fire spirit. And so technically it's considered the water spirit, so it can't necessarily, it's a spirit, so it's not considered turning into ice. And Elsa is the one that connects them, and she's the ice, like water connects them to everything.
Got it.
But that's how they did it in the movie. Obviously, everybody can have their own version. So, but yeah, so Elsa changed him and changed his anatomy when it was wintertime so that she could ride him on land as snow, pretty much. In the shape of a horse. So yeah, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but that's what happened.
Yep, I have.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And maybe we can have you back to talk about student ambassador when we get that one in. That would be super cool.
Very cool.
We so I advertised this program as the book being great for teens and adults, and I had hopes that we would have some older friends join us as well. But thanks so much for making it accessible to our young patrons too, to learn about a time in history in the world that maybe not very many people have written about before.
Yeah, Banned Book Club has a couple of parts that might be a little scary for younger readers. You know, I think it's safe for kids to read with their parents if their parents look at it and see which parts they want to have conversations about. But it is a little bit scary for younger readers, but Student Ambassador is really the one that's geared for kids.
Yeah, and I know I've got it in my pre-order cart for Baker and Taylor, which is where the library buys a lot of our books from. So it should be on its way as soon as it gets published. Ryan J wants to know, what time is it in Korea now?
It's 8:03 in the morning.
And do you have to go to work today?
Yep, I leave here about noon.
Oh, okay. You work in the afternoon time.
Yep.
And are your students all in Korea as well?
Yep. Usually we have classes in person in the library, but now we're on Zoom.
Ah. what sort of subjects do you teach?
English.
Oh, okay.
English class. Yeah, it's nowadays at the library. We opened up again, and it was in my classrooms. We had plastic dividers around every kid's desk, and when you enter, there's like this fine mist of disinfectant, and then you have to go in front of a big screen that measures your temperature and takes a picture of you, and then use hand sanitizer, sign in. So it's very very cautious. But then because there was like one more case in Busan, they're like, let's shut down again. Got to be safe.
Very good. Yes, it's very important for all of us to be safe right now, right? Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I am going to, let's see, end the recording here.